What's up, guys? Doomwake here. Welcome back to another modern video on the channel. As always, before we continue, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. Let me know in the comment section below what you thought of the video. Today we're going to be exploring some Persist, Unmarked Grave, Archon of Cruelty Reanimator. This is a deck that I've been playing on the Twitch stream over the past couple of days to varying degrees of success, and I've been trying a bunch of different versions. There's actually a video on the YouTube channel with the Asmo Reanimator version. Be sure to go check that out. And I like that one a lot. I like that it has Asmo, Urza Saga. I think the one thing that I've keep coming around to is that you want sort of like a plan B with your Reanimator deck, because your opponent's either going to have ways to stop Archon or counter spells or graveyard hate. So you want like some sort of plan B main deck, and then the sideboard, a little bit different. We'll talk about that in a second. So the idea behind this deck is you have all of the good Reanimator stuff, right? You have Archon, Unmarked Grave. So for those of you who don't know, I'll just kind of go over the cards. So Persist is return a non-legendary creature from your graveyard to the battlefield with a -1/-1 counter on it. Unmarked Grave, search for a non-legendary card, put it into your graveyard. So these sort of mimic Entomb plus Reanimate. I know that they're, conditional and they have an additional mana, but that's what we have access to in Modern. Obviously, they don't want to give us Entomb and Reanimate. That would make things a little bit, that would not be fun. So fixed versions of those cards, and then Priest of Felrites, which is another way to get back a creature. Notably a little bit worse than Persist, because you have to have this in play for an entire turn cycle, so your opponent can have removal spells. But the nice thing about Priest is you can also unearth it. So if your opponent kills it, you can then, it's just inevitability. You'll eventually get the 5 mana, put it back into play, and then get the Priest, or get the Archon. So that's our Reanimator package. And then Archon, because it's non-legendary, this is what I believe to be the best pound-for-pound non-legendary card that you can reanimate. I don't really think there's anything better. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, your opponent sacks a creature, Planeswalker, discards a card, loses 3 life, you draw a card and gain 3 life. So just a lot of stuff going on there. And then one emissary to be able to Unmarked Grave for, because there are a lot of decks that can't beat this game one. Mostly Hammer Time is the one deck that comes to mind that doesn't have any outs to it game one. But there might be other decks that fringe decks that you might want access to. You might want to have access to this. And then we have 1 rights to be able to Unmarked Grave for. I know that you can Unmarked Grave for Priest, but sometimes you don't have time for that, so you want to be able to shave a mana. So that's why I like the 1 rights. So that's the Reanimator package. Okay. Now the rest of this deck, we have some interaction. We have Bone Shards, Collective Brutality, Thoughtseize. The nice thing about Thoughtseize is you can also Thoughtseize yourself on turn 1, take the Archon, and then turn 2 Persist. So Thoughtseize doubles as protection against your reanimation draws, and also doubles as a discard outlet, which is kind of cool. Night's Whisper to recoup some of the card advantage, because in a nutshell, a lot of our cards like Unmarked Grave and Grief are card disadvantage in their own right. So, as powerful as Unmarked Grave is, you are down a card. So having access to a couple Night's Whispers to recoup that card advantage is, kind of cool. It's nice to have access to. A couple Liliana's, good discard outlet. Just a powerful Planeswalker that's been around in Modern forever. You can discard your fatties and then reanimate them. It kind of curves pretty nicely with Priest too, because if your Priest lives, like you play Priest on 2 and then you play Liliana on 3, you can just discard the Archon and then immediately get it back with Priest. So that's kind of cool. So that's the Reanimator stuff. And then the last 8 cards in the deck that we have are Grief and Ephemerate. Now, I know that a lot of people, the Grief timeline has been like, set spoiled, first comes out, everybody screams it's broken, needs to be pre-banned, then it kind of takes a dip, maybe gets a little bit back up in playability, takes a dip. It's been a wild ride with Grief. People who watch the Twitch channel know that I've been a big advocate of anti-Grief Ephemerate decks. This, however, I think is the one deck that it's acceptable in, because you are just trying to put a fatty, an Archon into play as quickly as possible, and that is your one thing that you do best. And even without Ephemerate, Grief to sort of, take their card take their piece of interaction for free when you're trying to curve out with, Persist and Unmarked Grave and maybe even Thoughtseize yourself. It is nice to have, and the plan B of just being able to go. This is the plan B, if you will. Grief plus Ephemerate on turn 1 it's a powerful play. You know, your opponents, you take 3 of your opponent's best cards, and maybe that doesn't win the game by itself, but it buys you enough time to set up your Reanimator line, and that's why I like it a lot in this deck in particular. The other decks that I've seen it in, like Stoneblade and all these other decks, I'm not a huge fan of it there. But when you're doing, the other thing you're doing is so powerful by, you know, i.e. putting a persisting an Archon into play, that's where I like Grief. So I think this is, again, this might be the best Grief deck that I've seen, and I am excited to try it out. Mana base, nothing fancy over here. Courtyards, Marsh Flats, basics. We have 1 off-color Shockland in the Overgrown Tomb for the prismatic endings in the sideboard, but other than that, I guess we got a castle that, you know, that I don't mind. I've been coming around to the castle. I didn't have it in most of my Asthma Reanimator builds, but I think I don't mind having access to one of them in the 75 or in the main deck. So I don't mind having one of those. And now, when we get to the sideboard, we also have some additional plan Bs here with Stoneforge Mystic, Batterskull, Cauldron. Stoneforge Mystic, the Stoneforge plan I specifically like against decks that either A, have heavy graveyard hate, which is Leyline Rest in Peace, or B, don't have a lot of removal that you might need to clock a little bit quicker. Like, I've been thinking about this. I don't know if I want to bring this in against Tron, because turn 2 Stoneforge into turn 3 Cauldron, like, it does kill them in you know, 3 or 4 turns, but it is still kind of slow. Like, it's Cauldron turn 3. I don't know if that's good enough against Tron. But yeah, decks that have heavy graveyard hate maybe are a little bit weaker on cheap interaction. That's where I like Stoneforge Mystic. Specifically against the blue-white Chalice decks, because their removal spell is Prismatic Ending. Like, they don't play 1-mana removal spells. They're just on Chalices, so I like it against those decks too. And you need an additional plan. Prismatic Ending is really nice because it's a removal spell that, you know, kills a lot of the common sideboard cards, like Rest in Peace, the aforementioned, and then, you know, also Soul Guide, Cage, Nihil Spellbomb, all that kind of stuff. Terastodon comes in because I think you need this against Tron. I don't think Archon of Cruelty is usually going to be good enough against them. And Emissary, while you can name Planeswalkers, doesn't stop you from getting O-Stone or Ugin. So I think you need the Terastodon against Tron, and I've been pretty happy. You know, I think every time I've had the Terastodon, I've been able to beat Tron with it, but I think it is necessary. 1 copy of Damn to be able to, just another removal spell that also doubles as a way to sweep the board if that comes up, which is kind of cool. A Kaya, which I really like against the DRC Ragavan decks, because most of those decks rely on the graveyard, whether they're Lurising or Murktiding, and I do like Kaya a lot against those decks. 1 copy of Vindicate, again, just another catch-all removal spell that also could double as something that comes in against Tron. And then 2 copies of Kaya's Guile. Good card to kill Murktide Region, because you can also usually just Prismatic Ending their DRC early on. And then also good against the graveyard decks like Dredge and Live Again and all that stuff. So that is the deck list. The last thing I didn't go over was the Malakir Rebirth. This is kind of cool because it's a land, you know, enters the battlefield tapped. But it's also more ways to ephemerate your grief, in the sense that, you know, if you have the grief draw and you have a Malakir Rebirth, you can target your grief with the trigger on the stack to get the grief back. So that's another cool thing about that's like hiding over here. That's kind of like technically a land, but it's also a spell for grief. And then the 2 Bone Shards, just good removal spell, kills any creature or planeswalker. It's good discard outlet for Archon. So just wanted to go over those. Cool. So that is everything about this particular deck list. So without further ado, let's get into some games. I'll see you back here in just a little bit for round number 1. Alrighty, YouTube, we're back here for round number 1 of our league with White-Black Reanimator. So this hand is kind of cool. If they play a 1-drop, we can go Bone Shards, discard Sarah's Emissary. We have access to turn 2 Persist. Now that being said, we have the castle, the classic castle courtyard combo. This hand's still pretty high upside. I'm going to keep it. But we can't, with this current mana setup, we don't have a second untapped land. So there is a downside to playing Castle Locthwain. Well, I also don't want to Bone Shards that thing. The good thing is, I don't know that they can beat MS. Oh no, they have Grist. Right, they have Grist. Alright, let's just go. I think I'm going to play Castle on turn 1 because I don't want to Bone Shards this thing. So I'm just going to go Castle first. Maybe just cast Night's Whisper on 2, discard to hand size. I think I might do that, actually. Just Night's Whisper on 2, discard to hand size. Because I'll have enough cards, right? Yeah, I'll have 8 cards. And that's also nice because then I can go. If they play Yawgmoth, I can Bone Shards the Yawgmoth and then Persist the Emissary. Because I don't want to cast Bone Shards anyways. Like I want to Bone Shards the Yawgmoth. That's kind of where I'm at. So let's just cast Night's Whisper, and then discard a hand size. It's actually kind of cool. Night's Whisper on the draw, discarding to hand size. I like it. I like it. So now if they play Yawgmoth, I can go Bone Shards plus Persist. They have a Zulaport Cutthroat. Okay. Question is, do I want to Bone Shards the Hierarch to cut them off of mana? I mean, I feel like if they had a Yawgmoth, they would have played it. So I think I'm just down to do that. Just discard Priest. This is each opponent, so I don't need to put the Priest or put the Angel into play first. Alright, let's see if this is good enough. I'm gonna name creature. They're at 21. Alright, so they do have Grist, and Grist is, you know, it's a creature while it's on the stack, but it's a Planeswalker in play, so Grist can kill Emissary. Looks like they have the Grist. That was definitely a reason to save the Bone Shards. So maybe that was bad. Because now they just sack the Wolf, kill the Emissary. Yeah, that's probably a reason to save the Bone Shards. Maybe they had the cord last turn, they were just holding it. Yeah. Alright, so that comes back. I'm at 22. Okay. So now I can do the Persist again. Let's think this through. Grist is at 1. Just trying to think if I want a Priest or Night's Whisper. Honestly, kind of want to just get the Priest into play. In case they somehow deal with the Emissary again, I just want to keep having ways to get it back. Let's play this as a white land, and then we'll get back Emissary, name creature. Okay, name creature. Now, I don't think they have a second copy of Grist. So I think once that Grist dies, we should be good. Oh, well, they milled over a second copy. That's got to be good for us. Do you think they have 3 copies? No. They don't have 3 copies. That's the answer to that question. So yeah, I messed up a little bit there. Got punished for casting the Bone Shards when I probably shouldn't have, but... Alright, do we want Prismatic Ending? Damn, no. Kaya's Guile, probably. Kaya herself seems good. I don't want the Stoneforge plan. Especially against, like, specifically Yawgmoth, I can just kill Stoneforge pretty easily. I'm not a huge fan of Dam, because all their stuff comes back anyways. So I think that stuff I'm kind of okay on. It's like, this is what I'm considering. I don't think I want to do too much. I'm not a huge fan of Night's Whisper. Brutality doesn't seem great. I mean, I guess you could take Cord or Eldritch Evolution. I think I'm just gonna do some light sideboarding and just bring an ending. I wonder if they have Leyline. Do they have Leyline sometimes? My setup is not very good against Leyline. I don't know the Yawgmoth sideboard that well. Well, at least we're up a game, so if they have Leyline, we can then sideboard differently for game 3 if we get there. Thoughtseize Grave Priest. Well, sounds really good if they don't have Leyline. And cue the Leyline. Nope, no Leyline. Alright, I'm in. Birds of Paradise. Second Thoughtseize. Not the best, but not the worst. Cord Hierarch Geist. I'll just take Cord. Because the rest of their hand is just some mediocre beats. I mean, they can attack me for 3, but then I can play Priest. And then we can follow up with Grave plus Thoughtseize, then Grave. Alright, there's an Urborg. Drew Wall of Roots. So they're going to go Wall plus Geist. Yep. Alright, so their hand is Peatland Hierarch. Alright, so I'll take 2, go to 16. Then we'll play Priest. And then next turn we can go Thoughtseize plus Grave. Thoughtseize first to protect. Although if they draw a removal spell, they're probably just going to kill the Priest now. I think in the post-board games, I'm not sure if I want to get Emissary or not. I still think I kind of want to get Archon. We'll see what they do. Alright, they're sacking the Peatland. So they have Hierarch, 2 unknowns. I also think there's a good chance that they might board in more answers to Archon to Emissary. And Archon at least gets me some value on the way out the door. Like, even if they have a Grist for it. Alright, we'll take that. That is fine. So now I could Prismatic Ending instead of casting Thoughtseize. Yeah, because we're gonna get their last card anyways. So let's just go Unmarked Grave. Get the Archon. This is a spot where I wish I had a Massacre Worm. I've considered playing a Massacre Worm in this deck, but I mean, I guess the counterpoint is they have a lot of creatures in play for Archon, but I think it's still good. We get their last card. Just like if I get Emissary and they draw Grist, it's so bad for me. Alright, drew an Archon. Not the best. So let's just go play this Prismatic Ending this thing. Just to keep them off some mana. And a Blooming Marsh. 1, 2, 3. Maybe doing that was bad because they can still they can still put put a. God, I'm so tired. I can't think this morning. What's the 4-mana card? Yawgmoth. They can still put a Yawgmoth into play if they draw a Chord because they have enough mana to. Green, green. Looks like they maybe drew a Chord or an Evolution. But I assume that would just get Grist, right? No, they're going to go for Yawgmoth. Interesting, because they can't currently kill the Archon. Okay. So I guess they can go sack birds minus on the Geist, sack Geist minus on the Archon. Or, yeah, sack wall, sure. Okay. And now they can go sack bird counter on the Geist. Yeah. So they're just going to draw a bunch of cards here. Yeah, second counter on the Archon. Now they can sack the Innkeeper counter on the Geist. But they have to be careful. If they sack too much stuff, then I can maybe kill their Yawgmoth with the Archon trigger. So they gotta at least be a little bit careful there. They still can't kill the Archon yet. Because they would have to sack the Yawgmoth, which they can't do, because they sacrifice another creature. If they find another 1-drop, they could. The blocks. Yeah, if they found another 1-drop, they could. Okay. Yeah. They're 14. Okay. So they found a 1-drop? Is that what this is? I mean, if they didn't find a 1-drop, then now they just lose. Yeah, okay. I guess they were looking to draw a 1-drop off of the last draw? That was kind of weird. That was kind of weird. I don't really know what happened there. I mean, I guess they just went for it. Yeah. I guess we beat Yawgmoth. I don't know if that's a good matchup or not. I feel like it probably is. Game 1, we had the Emissary. They didn't have a ton of outs to it. I mean, they had the Grist, but then they milled over the second one. Anyways, that was round number 1. I'll see you back in just a little bit for round number 2. Alright, we are here for round number 2. We're playing against Sodek. I think Sodek likes to play Dredge. He's been on a Belcher kick recently. I don't know, Dredge, Belcher, one of those two. This hand's decent. We got a Grief and an Ephemerate. Hopefully he's not playing Dredge, because this hand's not the best against Dredge. Hopefully he's playing like one of the other combo decks, Belcher or Glimpse or something like that, because that's where Grief is usually really good against. Yeah, this hand's going to be tough against Dredge. So, my Grief Ephemerate plan is not the best here, but I don't really have another plan. So, I think what I want to do is go Grief Pitch Rebirth. And then I can Ephemerate it, and then potentially probably Priest on 2. Yeah, God, I don't want to put the Conflagrate in the graveyard. I mean, the thing about putting the Conflagrate in the graveyard is if they're going to put the Conflagrate in the graveyard anyways, they can just cast it for 1 mana. So, like, it's not the best here, because I'm forcing them to discard the Conflagrate, but they can just cast it for 1 mana anyways. And getting them down on cards in hand is good with stuff like Cathartic Reunion. Alright, so we need to find an Archon pretty quickly. Or I guess I should say an Unmarked Grave. Alright, they got a Tarn. They have 1 unknown card. Could be a Dredger, though. I actually don't think I want to cast the Ephemerate. Okay, let's attack. Question is, are we casting Whisper or Priest? I think I'm casting Whisper. Okay, pass the turn. I don't think I want to cast the Grief yet, because we don't know what their last card is. It could just be a Dredger. And if I grief them and their card's a Dredger, I'm forced to take it, like a Stinkweed Imp or something. And I don't really want to do that. So I'm not really a fan of that. So they have a Loam. So they can start loaming. They can't... no, they can Ox, right? This is 8 cards. So they could Ox their whole graveyard away, which maybe is good. I don't know if they want to do that or not. No, they're just casting Loam. Alright, so they have 3 lands in hand. Castle, huh? Yeah, this is not great. This is not a great spot to be in. Alright, play Priest. Play Marsh Flats. Again, don't really want to Grief. I think we know their hand is just lands, right? Yeah. Okay, your turn. So now they Dredge. Chill, go to 8. And now they can Ox. Yeah, this is not good. This is not good. Not good. Get the Amalgam back. Maybe this matchup is probably just terrible. I also don't really have any sideboard cards. I'm not prepared for Dredge. I guess I have 2 Kai's Guiles, but that's about it. Not really much else. I might bring in Stoneforge Mystic. Might have to find a plan like that in the post-board games. So they're at 15. I mean, if I find an Unmarked Grave, maybe we got a shot, but... I'm gonna get the Overgrown Tomb in case I drop Prismatic Gains in the sideboard. Yeah, whatever. Doesn't matter. Drew a Priest, huh? Alright, I think I am off it. Alright, game 2. Game 2, Cauldron Batterskull, Stoneforge, Kaya's Guile, probably Kaya herself. I don't like any of the discard spells. Not a fan of Night's Whisper. I just don't really think discard is where you want to be. Liliana's terrible. So the problem, I guess, with this line is we don't have a lot of enablers, like discard enablers. So it's possible that I want a couple Thoughtseizes. The Grief stuff is also really bad, but at least like having a 3/2 is pretty good, and Ephemerate Archon is kind of dope. So what if I just, like, have 3 Thoughtseize in my deck just to plan on Thoughtseizing myself? I think I like that. And then have Kaya's Gals, my Graveyard Hate, Skull, Cauldra. Yeah, okay, I like this. We'll do this. Game number 2. Got a 1-lander, no Grief. I think if this hand had a Grief, I would consider keeping it because I could Ephemerate the Grief on 1. But as a 1-lander, I think I'm kind of off it. This hand does have the Grief. So I guess I put back the Archon, and then Grief, Pitch, Grief, Ephemerate, leave Unmarked Grave and Burial Rites, and just like hope that that's good enough. It's probably not going to be good enough. Kept 7, that's not great. Alright, so we will take Merchant and Shriekhorn. Alright, so their hand is 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then they played Stomping Grounds. They have Ox, Loam, Chill. I am going to cast the Ephemerate because at least I can just take Chill. I don't want to take one of the other cards because I don't want to put those cards in their graveyard, but take Chill. Alright, well, we got nothing else. And this is probably not going to be good enough. Unless maybe we find, like, lands and a Kaya's Guile. Yeah, this matchup has just got to be terrible. I drew an Ephemerate, which is not where I want to be, because I don't want to discard any of those cards, so I don't even want to cast it. I guess, I probably should have played the other Grief and the Ephemerate to just put another 3/2 into play, and maybe that's good enough. Yeah, that might be my only way out of this. Although, they could just make some blockers, so I don't even think it's good enough. So they have an Ox. Yeah, because, like, I don't want to put the Ox in the graveyard. Putting the Ox in the graveyard is bad. Does that win the race, maybe? The problem with Grief Ephemerate right now is we discard their last 2 cards. Unless one's a land. But even if we don't, let's say their last card's a land. We discard the Ox. They Dredge Loam. So 6, 7, Dredge Loam, 6, 7, 8, 9. They can just put the Ox into play. Like that's just not good for me. I guess I don't know how else I'm winning by not doing that, so I guess I'll do it. Alright. Hope this is good enough. I don't think it is, but... Yeah, maybe if I'd cast the Grief last turn, they'd be at 9. Yeah, it's still probably not good enough. Yeah, right. I've seen enough. This matchup is just atrocious. I mean, I'm sure you could beat this deck pretty easily if you just played some ley lines, but, you know, I don't think there's enough people that play Dredge to warrant sideboarding ley lines, so I think you just have to accept that it's a bad matchup. But, you know, it is what it is. Round 1. I'll see you back in just a little bit for round number 3. Alrighty, YouTube, we are back here for round number 3. For our league with White-Black Reanimator, we can go... This hand's pretty good. We can go Grief, Pitch, Rebirth, Ephemerate, and then we have Unmarked Grave on 2 to find a fatty, and then we just need to find a Persist. Or Priest. So I'm in for it. So let's go Courtyard, Pitch, Rebirth. See what we are up against. So this is Rhinos, huh? So I can take the Force, so they can't force the Ephemerate, and then on the comeback take the Bone Crusher Giant. I guess they could go Fury, Pitch, Command. I think that's okay, though. So I'm going to take Force so they can't counter the Ephemerate. I'm not going to cast the other Grief. Now I kind of have to take Bone Crusher Giant. And, I mean, if they want a Fury Pitch Command, they have to 2-for-1 themselves and leave them with just an Outburst. So I think that's okay. I think that is something I would accept. Because if I take the Bone Crusher Giant first, they just get to go Force Pitch Command. I guess it ends up being the same thing, right? No, because this way I get 2 cards. Okay, well they chose not to cast the Furies, so I'm kind of okay with that. They draw another Bone Crusher? Classic Thoughtseize bug. It seems like they did. Petty Theft. Okay. So their hand is Outburst, Command, Fury. Let's just... I'm just debating if I want to... If I want to Grief, pitch Grief. Get their Outburst. Then their hand is Command, Fury. I think that's good. And then I could just Unmarked Grave for Archon. I think I like that. So I want to take their Outburst. And they have a Fury and a Command. And we can just put an Archon in the graveyard, hopefully draw Persist. If not, we can just go Liliana, start ticking up. Maybe that's good enough. It's too easy. Too easy. They could have drawn a bounce spell, I guess, but... we shall see if they drew another Borrower. Force pitch. Okay, alright. Your turn. So their last card's Fury. And they have a Borrower in exile. It's not bad for them. They drew a Crashing Footfalls. I'm going to thin a little bit. So now we can just go play Castle, plus get their last card. If they draw land for the Borrower, it's kind of awkward, because they can just hold up Borrower. Yeah. Makes things a tad awkward. So I can go... plus the Liliana, then activate Castle. Yeah, let's do that. In case I draw a tap land. Okay, drew an Ephemerate. So now they're going to play Borrower, attack Lily for 3. We can then trade Lily for Borrower. Yeah, this is kind of a tough spot. We need to find a reanimation spell pretty quickly. Rights would be kind of nice because we can just discard Rights to Liliana and then get back the Archon. Alright, they drew a land. How about a second Liliana? It's actually not bad, because I can minus the first one and then play the second one. And just uptick it. I don't think the Ephemerate's doing too much for me. And this thing is on 2, so it's coming off next turn. Alright, Persist. Malakir Rebirth. Alright, so let's play that as a land, uptick Lily, and then activate Castle. I guess I needed to do that main phase. Could have waited, but... so they cast that. Lily's on 5. So reanimation spell would be nice. Even a priest would do it because we can uptick the Lily, discard the priest, and then we have 5 mana for getting back the priest. Archon of Cruelty. Interesting. So I could castle first before activating Liliana. I'm just trying to think of, like, I'm actually not that far away from hardcasting the Archon, which is why I would consider castling first. Otherwise, I could just go play Bloodstained Mire, +1 the Liliana. No, because I want to downtick this turn. Yeah, so if I'm downticking this turn, I might as well go Bloodstained Mire, fetch. Yeah, Bloodstained Mire, fetch, activate Castle prior to downticking. Because if I find Persist, I'm still going to downtick. So downtick, they sack a Rhino, then I play Priest. So I know they get to kill my Liliana this way, but I guess you know what I could do? I could chump block the Rhino with Priest. Lily takes 2, goes to 1. And then I could keep the Lily in play and also have 5 mana to get back the Priest next turn. That might be a better line, actually. because I get to keep the Lily and I still get to priest back the Archon. Yeah, I actually think that makes sense. I mean, it ties up all my mana next turn, I guess, but keeping the Lily around is pretty good. I like that play. What's this? Prismari Command. Okay. Liliana down. I guess that makes that a little bit worse, but now they only have one card. Which could be a borrower, but even if it's a borrower, they still lose the Rhino. Alright, get back Archon. Does not look like it's a borrower, so we should be pretty good here. Alright, your turn. They have 0 cards. They need to find a lot. They need to find a lot. And at this point we're even in hardcast Archon territory, so we are good to go. Alright, go to attacks. I guess maybe they have ice. Yeah, so maybe ice into Violent Outburst. No, that's not even good enough against the Archon. Alright, hardcast Archon. Alright, they're off it. Next game. Playing against Teamer Rhinos. I don't think I want Stoneforge because they have Fire Ice and Bone Crusher Giant and Prismari Command. Not a fan of Prismatic Ending. I do like Dam. I like the Sweeper. Not a fan of, like, I don't like the 1-for-1 answers to Rhinos. I think that is a losing battle. So I think I want to keep my deck just kind of, for the most part, I just want to keep everything the same. I don't think there's much I need to do. I think this matchup is decent. Don't want the Cauldron plan. Kaya, Vindicate, Guile, Yeah, let's just trim a Bone Shards for a Dam and call it a day. I think our plan is pretty good here. And I think that might be part of why I like Reanimator so much, is because of its matchup against Teamer Rhinos. I think is pretty good. Thoughtseize, Ephemerate, Liliana, Archon. I kind of like this hand because we have Liliana Archon, we're just missing any reanimation spell. And if we draw Grief, it's pretty good because we have Ephemerate. So I don't mind this hand, I think it's good. Alright, they lead on Foothills, looks like Suspend Footfalls. And if we draw Grief, we'll do that on turn 1. If not, we'll just Thoughtseize. Yeah, see? Yeah, that is definitely a good draw. Clothies. I should probably take that, I think. Well, I mean, I could just let them have Clothis. Because if I take Shardless, I do nothing on 2, they play Clothis on 3, I go Lily, discard, not Archon, and then the turn after, discard Archon, get it back. It's kind of risky, though. Alright, I think I like this better. It's close, but... Like, that line does open me up to some amount of things, like, if they draw another Rhinos and they just kill Liliana before I discard my Archon. That was a really good draw. That was a very, very good draw, because now I can just go... Well, I guess it's not. No, it is, because now I can go Liliana, discard Archon, and then get it back immediately. Yes, it is. That was the perfect draw. They played the Misty... So they're likely just going to go Cavern's Clothis. No, they drew Shardless. Okay. So their last card, they have a Clothis and 1 unknown. Let's hope their unknown is not Endurance. Oh, but they would have to discard a card anyways, right? Yeah. So even if they had Endurance, they wouldn't have a window to Endurance me before I put the Archon into play. But they lose the Clothis anyways, so... And your turn. Would be nice to hold up Ephemerate. I don't think I need it, though. Like, if they draw Borrower... Yeah, if they draw Borrower, that's pretty good. Both are at Liliana. I'm just not going to block. Because they could have drawn a Bone Crusher or a Fire Ice. Another Shardless. Okay. I mean, that's good, but I think we can still pretty easily beat it. So attack, they sack Shardless, go to 10, then they go to 4. Oh, they're just dead to the triggers, because I can just Ephemerate my thing twice. The triggers kill them. Who's the burn deck now? Classic white-black burn. Finishing them off with Ephemerate. Yeah, I mean, the popularity of Rhinos is why I like this deck so much. I've played this matchup from the Rhino side, and it is rough. Endurance helps a little bit, but it's just like, it's so hard to answer Archon. You only have a limited number of bounce spells, and the Reanimator deck is so good at putting an Archon back into play, especially this deck in particular with Ephemerate. So, 2-1. Hope you enjoyed the games. I'll see you back here in just a little bit for round number 4. Alright, YouTube, round number 4. We have Grief plus Rebirth, Thoughtseize, Night's Whisper, Archon. Yeah, this hand's pretty good. I'm down. This hand's got a lot going on. Depending on what we are up against, I may or may not Grief on... I mean, I probably should Grief on 1. So we can go Marsh Flats, Grief, Pitch, Archon, and see what they're working with. And then decide if we want to Rebirth. I assume I do. Ugh, Dredge again. Dredge again. Oh, no. No. Alright, well, I can Rebirth and take the Meba and leave them with Loam Thug. God. What's with all the Dredge decks lately? I guess Sodek just posted his guide on Twitter, I think. We did play against Sodek this league, too. Alright, so I'll take the Narcomoeba, just because I want some pressure in play. Leave them with a Loam and a Thug. I definitely don't want to take a Dredger with Grief. This matchup is pretty bad. Matchup is not great. Alright, well, I guess it's time to play some Leylines in the sideboard if people are going to pick up Dredge again, huh? Guess it's time to play some Leylines. Archon of Cruelty, huh? Alright, stack for 3, and I think I'm just going to cast Night's Whisper. We gotta find a Persist. If we find Persist, we can Thoughtseize ourselves. And then... Okay, yeah, that works. So I can go Thoughtseize myself and then Persist the Archon. I could name Emissary, but the problem with naming Emissary on creature is they have Conflagrate, so I think that is not that's not really where you want to be. I think you just gotta try and get them dead with Archon triggers, which we might be able to do this game. So maybe that's the key to the matchup, you just gotta have a fast Archon. Alright, they're doing some stuff. 2 chills, huh? Opponent's got no chill. Alright, so they get an Amalgam back. So I can go attack for 3. And then Thoughtseize myself, Persist. I'm just trying to think if I want to Emissary or Archon. So they're at 18. If I name creature, it's a 2-turn clock. The only thing about that is... I'm just trying to think about, like, chills and conflagrates. So let's say I go Thoughtseize myself, take Emissary, Persist Emissary. I'm at 7. I name creature. I have 9 power. So it's a 2-turn clock, unless they hit a chill. Because a chill would buy them an extra turn and put me to 4. Yeah, I don't think that's good enough. I think I have to do the Archon. It's really close, I think, but I think the emissary line is too weak to any conflagrate or even just a chill, you know. Now, I guess this line is also bad against conflagrate because they can just kill the Archon, but it's kind of close, I think. Sack the Amalgam. Okay. They're at 15. I mean, I guess this is also a two-turn clock, right? 5, 8, 11. Yeah, I mean, it's a two-turn clock either way, but... So we know they have a Loam. Do we know their last card? I can't remember. I know they have at least a Loam in their hand. Okay, there's the Loam. And a Cave. Okay, cycle Cave, get back Loam. There's the Conflagrate, which makes things a little bit tougher. Maybe I can find like a Thoughtseize and a Persist, and then I can get the Emissary into play. Looks like that's not happening. So they sack the Amoeba, discard a card. Ooh, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if they fetch, they die. Well, that's cool. Okay, go. If they fetch, they die. Got him. Whew. Did not think I was going to win that game. Alright, game number 2. Cool. Alright, let's see. So what did we do the last time? We brought in the Stoneforges, didn't we? Because we had enough bad cards. I think I still like the Stoneforge plan. I want Guile. I like Kaya. And I think that is it. Liliana's not great. Knight's Whisper, not great. Bone Shards, not great. I think I cut the Brutality, and then did I cut like 2? No, I think I cut 1 Priest, 1 Thoughtseize. Yeah, that's fine. I think I like that. Maybe I'm supposed to keep the discard stuff and just cut Ephemerate and or Grief. Nah, because like Ephemerate Archon is still pretty good. Yeah, I think I like this. So this is Grief with Ephemerate. Yeah, okay. I'll keep this. I'm not in love with this hand, because Grief Ephemerate is not necessarily the best against them, but it does put some early pressure on. Hopefully we just draw a Unmarked Grave. It's a Shriekhorn. Yep. Well, there's the Unmarked Grave. Alright, so let's go Grief, Exile, Persist. I think I still like doing this just to put pressure on them. Maybe this doesn't make sense, but... So I'll take... Ooh. I'll take Inquiry, and then I will Ephemerate this and take... I guess Grudge, because I want to strand them with the Amalgam in hand, and also don't really have much for Grudge. I mean, I guess I have Stoneforge, but if I draw Stoneforge, I'm just going to get Culture anyways, so... I think I'd rather leave them with a blank Amalgam in hand. And then we can just go turn 2 Grave, turn 3 Persist, hopefully. Alright, they hit the... Oh, they don't have a stop on their upkeep, probably. I think they were supposed to do that upkeep. So they have an Amalgam and an unknown card. I think I'm going to choose to not cast the Ephemerate, just in case that card is a Dredger. They're at 14. Play this untapped, play Unmarked Grave. This time I am going to get the Archon, because the Archon just kills them so quickly. Especially if we draw a land, because we can hold up Ephemerate on the Archon. That is the one really nice thing about putting Ephemerate in this deck, is like, if your opponent goes to kill Archon, you can just Ephemerate it. Okay, so they have an Amalgam and an Imp. I think things are looking kind of grim for them. Yeah, they're off it. Okay. Well, I don't know. Like, that was, I mean, they milled the 5. Their draw game 1 wasn't great. Maybe I just played that match against Sodek horribly. I don't know. I mean, I think it should be a bad matchup, but I don't know. Anyways, we're 3-1, I guess. we'll see you back in just a little bit for the last round. Alright, YouTube, last round. We're 3-1. See if we can close out the 4-1. This hand's got some upside. It is missing, like, an Unmarked Grave or an Ephemerate, but the way that I like to look at this deck is it's an A plus B deck, and we have 2 copies of A here, 2 copies of A here. We just need one of the other Bs, whether that's Ephemerate or Grave or stuff like that. So I think this hand has a decent amount of upside that I'm willing to keep it. I don't think I'm going to Grief on 1, though. I think I'm just going to wait. There is a possibility that I end up going Grief plus Persist the Grief, but we'll see what they do. I'm not in love with that play. Looks like they're Burn. Burn has been a pretty good matchup for these decks. Granted, you do have to put Archon into play. Okay, maybe not Burn with Channeler. Another Courtyard. So I could Grief. Could Priest. I don't love griefing here. I kind of want to wait on the grief until they put Lurrus in their hand. I'm just going to do this and pass. I know that my priest is so likely to die, but I guess like grief plus persist grief would have been okay there. Jeskai. Jeskai prowess, maybe? Portable hole. Okay. That is fine. Bolt me. Alright, I just want to turn on Delirium. Makes sense. Alright, hopefully we draw Unmarked Grave. That would be ideal. Unmarked Grave would be ideal. Bone Shards. Kind of want to save the Bone Shards in case I draw an Archon of Cruelty. This is kind of tough. Because, like, I could kind of go all in here and just go, you know, Bone Shards, discard Grief, persist the Grief. What if I just go Bone Shards, discard a land, and then just plan on hardcasting Griefs over the next couple of turns? Maybe that's good. Yeah, let's just do that. Let's go Bone Shards, kill this, discard Marsh Flats, and then we'll just start hardcasting Griefs. I think that's fine. Because we have 4 mana. If I draw Grave, I can just go Grave Persist in the same turn. And they don't have much going on. I think this makes sense. Okay. So that into a 1-drop is a little scary. Like land plus 1-drop. Maybe they'll miss on land like I always do when I cast Expressive Iteration. I never, whenever I cast this card on 2 lands, I never hit a 3rd land off of it. Without fail. Every single time. And every time I watch everybody else cast it, it's just the stone cold nuts. Yeah, they hit a land. I probably wouldn't hit a land there, but that's just me. Ooh, a Knight's Whisper. Kind of still just want to cast Grief. I think I'm down with it. I'm just gonna chill. I'm gonna wait a little bit. Bloodbraid Marauder. Okay, well, I'll take Iteration. Bloodbraid Marauder, huh? That's an interesting one. Their deck's kind of cool. So they have Heat, Iteration, Marauder. And they're choosing to cast Iteration, likely trying to look for a land for Marauder. But then we can just play the second Grief, take their Heat. I guess we're a little cold to Lurrus then, but like we don't necessarily have to Archon them this game. We might just be able to beat them with like Grief beatdowns. Especially if they cast the Marauder here and don't hit a removal spell. Shinka. They hit a Bauble. That's fine. So they have Heat, 2 unknowns. So now I can attack and Grief them again. Unless I just draw. Unless I just draw the Unmarked Grave. Ephemerate. Huh. Interesting. So why don't we do this? Why don't we go Night's Whisper first. See what's up. Okay, there's the Archon, but I don't actually have a way to discard the Archon. So what if I just go Grief Pitch Archon, and then just try to Ephemerate them a bunch. Grief Pitch Archon, see what's up. So they have Marauder, Heat, Ragavan. So take Heat, Ephemerate this Grief, take Marauder, and then that resolves, and then we can go attack for 3, and then just Ephemerate this one to get the Ragavan out. And they have no cards left. And then they can't really put Lurrus in their hand because of the Ephemerates that are exiled. Oh, I guess they have the Bauble draw step. I could have done that second Ephemerate in their draw step, but I don't know if that's as good. I'm just going to take this. They drew a Ragavan, okay. So I'm just going to choose not to cast the Ephemerates. Unmarked Grave would be kind of nice. I knew I was gonna draw that. I knew as soon as I made that play I was gonna draw that card. Okay, do we want to race? 6. Okay, this might have been bad. Because now I kind of have to block, right? Yeah, I think I maybe took a bit too aggressive of a line. So if I attack, what's going to happen is they just go attack with Ragavan, get a treasure, and then guarantee have 6 mana to go Lurrus to hand, play Lurrus. I need them. I was gonna say I need them to not have a land there, because I needed there to be a window so I could Thoughtseize the Lurrus. But now we're in a bad spot. Yeah, they already have Marauder in their graveyard. Yeah, I think I maybe messed this game up. Maybe I'm supposed to wait. Maybe I was supposed to wait. Yeah. Okay. I've seen enough. I have seen enough. Like, if I had waited on the Grief, I would have had the Archon in my hand to be able to go Thoughtseize myself, play Persist, but maybe I got a little too greedy with the Griefs. I'm not going to be doing a lot here. I think these type of matchups are generally pretty good. I'm not going to bring in the Stoneforge package because they have a lot of cheap removal. I mean, Damn is not the worst, but the problem is all their cards get value. Like, all their cards replace themselves. So, Damn is not exactly where I want to be. Kaya and Guile might be okay. I'm kind of off. Night's Whisper. Don't really like Brutality. I think you have to keep in Bone Shards against Ragavan just to have max answers to it. And yeah, this seems fine. Let's do this. Alright, back here for game number 2 against Jeskai, Lurrus, Saga, Iteration. There's a lot of weird stuff going on over there. Their deck looks cool, though. I don't have any lands, so I'm going to mulligan. Okay. Sand is acceptable. It's not great, but if they don't kill Priest, then it might be okay. They're probably going to kill the Priest, though. If they attack, I wonder if I should block. I mean, I guess they're probably just going to kill this, but... if they just attack without casting a removal spell, I think I might just block, because I have a second Priest anyways, and then I could just go Thoughtseize, play second Priest. But I kind of assume they're just going to heat this first and then attack. Yeah. Yeah. Kind of annoying that we don't have access to that anymore, but... Esper Sentinel. Alright, so let's Thoughtseize you, choose not to pay. See what they're working with. Marauder, Sentinel, Iteration, Path. Alright, well, I gotta take the Path and just kind of hope that this works out. So they have Sentinel Marauder 2 iterations. Your turn. Please brick. It's unlikely they're going to brick, because they get a bunch of looks at it with the iteration. But maybe. Maybe there's a chance. Maybe. Mishra's Bauble and a Vantage. Okay. They didn't brick. They did not, in fact, brick. And they hit a Bone Shards, sure. So they have Sentinel Marauder iteration. This card is just completely insane. Just like my opponent just had it on turn 1 and I felt like I was just behind the entire game. Well, I drew a Persist, which I guess might be okay. I mean, I guess I'm just going to cast this, give them 1 card, and then put the Archon in the graveyard. And then hopefully I can Persist next turn, assuming they don't find any interaction off the iteration. Yeah, I mean, I guess my hand just didn't line up well because I had 2 priests. If one of these was a Persist instead of a priest, like if I had this earlier, maybe this game's a lot different, but it just sucked that I had 2 priests and they drew, 2 heats. Not much I could do about that. I still have Marauder iteration. Yep. Dragon's Rage Channeler. Okay. So they're going to play Channeler, maybe hold up mana. Channeler, Marauder? No, they're holding up mana. Well, I don't really have any choices, so I would like to cast Persist. I'm just going to pay the 2. And see what they got. Maybe if I draw a black card, I can play the Grief. Did not draw a black card. They have a 3rd heat. Could have a Path. They did board in Path, too. Just over here playing my cards. Not much I can do. Lightning Bolt. Targeting Archon. Okay. They have 2 bolts. They have 2 bolts. I guess I'll take a draw step. Maybe I draw 3, 4, 5, 6. Go to 6. Because I do have the Priest. So, yeah, maybe this game's not over. I would do another bolt, though, if I go for that. Because I have to pay 3 life for the Priest. But I certainly don't have any choices. Alright, so they Marauder into Bauble. Bauble trigger that thing. Yep. They have 1 card left. What could it be? What could it be? Alright, Bauble me. Sure. Luris, yeah. All that's fine. I'm going to make the 1 play that is available to me, because I got nothing else. Wish I drew a black card so I could have griefed first, but... Alright. Did not draw a black card. I mean, maybe, just maybe, if they don't find a heat or a path, maybe we are okay. We are just dead on board to heat or path, but... They also got a 1 here. I don't know. I mean, I don't really think there was much I could have done differently this game, because the way that my cards lined up, like, I think I had to play Priest when I played Priest, and I guess I could have just taken a different card with Thoughtseize, but I took the Path when I had multiple Priests, and I thought that made sense. I think I played this game fine. I don't think there was much I could have done differently. Exiled Saga. Did they find a removal spell? They did. Alright, we're dead. Yep, we're dead. That's a little unfortunate way to end it, but, you know, 3-2, not too bad. Losing to that deck, which I think generally is a pretty good matchup. My draw just didn't line up well against theirs. And then Dredge, which, I don't know, we split against Dredge. I still kind of think Dredge is probably a bad matchup, but this deck felt good. I was, you know, the Ephemerate Grief stuff is decent. I still kind of feel like there's something better than Ephemerate Grief. Maybe you just want to play Grief without the Ephemerates as like a free piece of interaction to, you know, make sure that your Persist is good to go. But I think there's something here with the Reanimator shell. We just got to keep working on it. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and I will see you in the next one.